Welcome, my dear kings and queens, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, at this dialogue where we are going to find the solutions of our challenges. One of our challenges is why Africans, black people, we are not own industries, businesses in our mother country, Africa. Before moving too far, let us listen a little bit from former president of South Africa, Mr. Jacob Zuma. Please don't skip. Watch this video until the end. Yes.
And maybe many of us felt that everything was now fine. I always ask the question, if that was the case, where was the economy to the black people? Why were we not having our businesses, our factories? Why up to now? If you get into where people keep money, what is it called, by the way? Huh? Banks, yes. If you get to the bank, you are black, you say, I want to do this business, no matter how much your plan is, they will ask you questions that almost equals your hair. And at the end, they'll say, sorry. We are not in a position to give you.
That is Mr. Jacob Zuma, the former president of South Africa and the president of MK Party. The question here is why black people, African people, we are not the owners of businesses, companies, industries, learning in our mother country, Africa. So what can we do as the people of Africa through our African Union? I'm here to suggest one thing, that the time has come for the African Union to call the meeting that maybe we can name it African Diaspora Summit, where all African leaders and our representatives in the diaspora will sit down in Addis Ababa, whether in Addis Ababa or in Abuja, Ouagadougou, anywhere in the continent, and start discussing these important issues, especially on the issue of development. So what we need to do first in the African Union. Listen a little bit from President Ruto.
And I'm happy that Musa Faki Mohammed is here. I'm happy that for us to think about Agenda 2063 of the Africa Union, we must also think about how do we reform our organization, the Africa Union.
Yes, kings and queens, you heard a little bit from President William Samoei Ruto. When we think about achieving Agenda 2063, we need to think also on how we are going to reform the African Union. How can we reform the African Union? To reform African Union, it needs all of us, the people who are in the continent, African descents, and those who are in the diaspora, in Caribbean, all African descents and Africans people must come together and see how we can reform our African Union. And then from there, we can start speaking about development, achieving Agenda 2063. So let us move on again to Mr. Ruto.
The final thing I want to say is, apart from sorting out our organization, we need to silence the guns that we have always said that we should in our continent. There is still too much conflict, too much instability, too much war all over our continent. It is not possible for us to trade. It discourages investment if we don't have peace, stability, and security in our continent.
Yes, you heard again from Mr. Ruto talking about the issue of peace. We cannot talk about Agenda 2063. We cannot talk about free movement of people. Of course, I've been suggested this. I shared the video where I requested our generals, our military leaders to have the meeting concerning about how they can help this continent to bring peace. So has the same Mr. Ruto repeated the same thing that I suggested. If you want to prove it, watch my video. The video here, you see this thumbnails where I created the video suggesting that the time has come to our military leaders, Captain Ibrahim Traore, President Museveni, Pro Kagame, Mamadou Doumbouya, Assimi Goita, Abraham Anchan, and many other leaders who are soldiers to convene a meeting, to have their own meetings and come with the solutions, how we are going to silence the gun, how we are going to end these conflicts, how we are going to end wars in the continent of Africa. Then from there, we can start speaking about development. We cannot speak about developments, Agenda 2063, if we don't have peace in the continent. So the first issue where we are going to have the meeting with the Africans, African diaspora, is the issue of peace. Let us, our first agenda, be the issue of peace and security in our mother continent, Africa. So let us move on with President Ruto.
We must make the organization fit for purpose. Mr. Chairman, I know you have attended the Africa Union meetings. Africa Union must stop being an organization that makes decisions at night. Because as you know, we burden our bureaucrats, we burden junior people to sit across the night for them to make decisions at 4 a.m. and 3 a.m. and 2 a.m. when us as heads of state have left. I mean, a decision where the real decision makers don't make the decisions. Instead, they leave it to their juniors. Is an organization that will not succeed. We must change the Africa Union so that it does business on behalf of the 1.4 billion people in our continent.
Yes, that is one of the big problems that we have in the African Union. So as you heard, that is the truth, that they made decisions at night, then at the morning they release what they have decided. So this is not fair, and that's why I'm saying we need to convene a meeting, a summit, African Diaspora Summit, to discuss these issues. Our leaders who are doing this should sit down and keep aside and leave the press to the young people. So you heard the truth from Mr. Ruto that the decisions are made at night by the juniors. So those who are supposed to be there to make decisions, decisive decisions, are not there. So they come, then after photo session, they run away. So to end this, that's why I'm saying we need to have the meeting. So kings and queens, you see the big problems that we have, and that's why I think we need the reforms in the African Union. And we cannot reform the African Union by we who have made the mistake to collect ourselves. That's why I'm saying we need our brothers and sisters, African descents in the diaspora, to come and sit down here in the continent and starting to share what we have, that, you know, this is the mistake, or these are mistakes that we made. So from now, we must do this and this and this in order for us to move forward. And of course, this African Union has been slimmed by many Africans, many people, that this is the organization that have been used as a tool of the Western power. So to end this tool to become the Western tool, or to be controlled by the Western, we must have our own meeting. And this meeting, I suggest to take place maybe in Addis Ababa, the capital city of Ethiopia, where there is the headquarters of the African Union. So, kings and queens, let us again move on in another session.
Mr. Chairman, it doesn't make sense that we have an organization that starts a meeting at 8 in the morning one day, a meeting that ends 8 in the morning the next day, across the night. And the most important decisions are left to technocrats at 2 a.m. in the morning. I mean, surely. Number two, an organization that is not accountable is an organization that has the chance to fail.
Yes, well said again from Mr. Luto. You know, one day I suggested also, and of course have been suggesting many times, the problem that maybe that our leaders sometimes they don't reach these messages. I said, if the Europeans came together in 1884 to 1885 for 4 months, from December to April, for 4 months, to discuss, to plan, to put strategies on how they will conquer, or how they will make sure that the children of Africa and the African continent will become colonized at that time. They took 4 months. So, but you find we Africans in the African Union, we spend one day. In one day, what can we discuss, my dear kings and queens? In one day, what can we discuss? In one day, what can we solve? So we are going there for just photo opportunities, as one time President Kagame said that when sometimes you see these meetings, we are there for the photo opportunities. So even in the African Union, we must stop being there for photo opportunities. We must be there to solve the challenges. So we cannot spend one day and expecting to make changes. So to make changes, we need, as I said in the previous, and I will continue to insist, that we need to have our own summit, African Diaspora Summit, to discuss these issues, to undo colonial issues, slavery issues. And we have to spend maybe 4 months, even 6 months, to sit down as the people of Africa to strategize how we are going to achieve peace, Agenda 2063, and many other issues. So you see, and that's why sometimes you wonder that why people are trying to escape the African Union. It's become useless sometimes. Why? Because of this. So let us move on again to another session.
Africa Union, there is a complete disconnect between the Pan-African Parliament, which is supposed to be the people's representative to hold the Africa Union Commission to account. But the Commission reports to nobody. Parliament sits in South Africa, they never attend any meeting, and it is completely disconnected. I had a chance, Mr. Chairman, allow me, to meet with the Speaker of the Pan-African Parliament 10 days ago. And we have agreed on what kind of reform do we need to carry out in the Pan-African Parliament. Today we have 5 representatives from every country. We believe that that number is too big. We need to reduce that number to between 2 and 3.
Yes. Don't skip this video. Make sure that you watch this video until the end, and you like the video, and also you share it. As President Ruto said, that we need to reduce the members of the Pan-African Parliament. Just imagine, one country is sending 5 members to the parliament, and all these 5 members are spending tax money payers. So it means we use a lot of money, and that's why one day I said, and always what Mr. Ruto are saying, always has already spoken about this. One day someone asked me why Captain Ibrahim Traore is doing better, and where he gets funds. Where he gets funds is to reduce expenses or expenditures. You see, you have 5 members in the Pan-African Parliament. They spend a lot of money. 4 members for what? 5 members for what? Let us reduce having 2, 1 male and 1 female. So it will be better if, I think, we'll do like that as proposed by Mr. Ruto, that we need to reduce members, and we need 2 members who are serious, not those who are coming for just making per diems. We have people who are participating in different occasions for per diems, not for presenting Africans. So that is a good suggestion. So let us move on again in another session or another sector where I wish to share with you. Please don't skip this video.
And we need to make the Pan-African Parliament a full-time organization to hold the Commission to account and to make sure that that organization is functional. And finally, Mr. Chairman, and I've taken more time, is also to have the ratification of the Africa Court of Justice so that Africans don't have to be carried to The Hague and other places whenever there are issues in our continent, that we can actually sort out our own issues as a continent.
This is another issue that is very important to share, and of course that's why I'm saying the meeting is very important. In the meeting or in the summit of African diaspora, we must talk about this African Court of Justice. We have seen many times our leaders being accused and taken to the Hague in Holland, while other leaders who have done bad things, especially white people, white leaders, are not taken. But it looks like this The Hague is for African leaders. So if we can sit down, as I said, the people of Africa in our summit, African summit, and address this time we are going to have our own court of justice. We will not again depend on the Hague, the tool that has been created by our former colonizers to punish us, the people of Africa. I think that will be good. So in that summit also we need to move far into trades, into infrastructures and something like that. So listen a little bit again from President Luto concerning about the issue of infrastructures. How can we trade among ourselves? You know, intra-trade between our countries is very low. For instance, we need to look into agriculture, we need to look into infrastructures. It is very, very important, I think, to do better in those kind of things. So, my dear kings and queens.
However, let me say that our trade numbers are still lagging behind. Intra-trade between COMESA countries is still around 10%. If you compare to SADC, that is 15%, and if you compare to EAC, that is almost 25%. It means there is scope for us as COMESA to do more and to do it better. And I think the responsibility for the Secretariat is cut out on what they need to do more to make sure that intra-trade between COMESA countries goes up from the current $14 billion to maybe double that amount. Just for comparison, intra-trade volume between the 8 EAC countries is 14 billion, compared to the same 14 billion for 21 countries of COMESA. It means there is scope for us to cover. We've done well, but we can do better. Your Excellencies, part of the challenge that we face in the intra-trade between our countries, both in COMESA and in our continent, is largely because of the limited trading products.
Yes, on the issue of trades, I think intra-trade among Africans or between African countries, it is better to strengthen this. We have said that we trade with others than we trade with ourselves. Why? Because one day, I think yesterday, President of Zambia, Mr. Ichilema, said that when we think about foreign investment, we are looking to the West, to Asia, to Europe. We are not looking in the continent. So to to increase intra-trade between our countries or between African countries, first of all, we need to make sure that we look in the continent first. I know we have these summits. That's why I'm saying we need our own summit. These summits that we have, China Africa Summit, Russia Africa Summit, UK Africa Summit, France Africa Summit, is a summit where when we go there, we sign some agreements. We allow the Chinese, Europeans, and others to do business with them than to do business with ourselves. So if we can have our own summits, as I said, as I proposed, African Diaspora Summit. From there, we can agree that from now and then, we must make sure that we trade ourselves. We add value to our resources. We process our resources, you see? And from there, we can create jobs. So let us move on again.
It is therefore important for us to build capacity to enhance our productivity, especially in the target area of agriculture. Last year, we had a fertilizer summit in Kenya for purposes of seeing how we can build sufficient capacity for fertilizer production, fertilizer use, so that we can enhance our productivity and to scale our productivity from primary products to value addition so that we can have more tradable products across our borders. It is imperative on us to scale up our productivity and to scale up our value addition interventions. It is the reason why in Kenya we are building in every county agricultural aggregation and industrialization parks to make sure that we reduce on post-harvest losses, we aggregate what we produce, and we industrialize by value addition so that we can prepare our products for sale within markets in country and markets across borders, and use the infrastructure that we have already built in COMESA, in EAC, and in ACFTA to enhance our trade volumes.
Yes, you heard again from Mr. Luto. Mr. Luto is a good speaker, but is not much good in implementing. But let us, the young people, the people of Africa, take these good words into action. So, the issue of adding value. So when we are talking about the trade among Africans or inter-trade between African countries, the issue of adding value is very important. We need to build capacities to our young men and women, our people, to add value to our resources. This tendency of inviting investors or attracting investors to think that these investors will come and create jobs for us, I think sometimes undermine our capacities, undermine our professionals, instead of allowing Africans to become innovative, to become creative. We take those resources into hands of others by claiming that we are giving these opportunities or we are attracting investors. So let us investors be Africans, and that's why I'm saying in the meeting of or in the summit of African diaspora, we will find diasporas, African diaspora who have financial good, who are technologically good, who are technical good, engineers, doctors, and from there we can give them mandate into the issue of industrialization, reconstruction, infrastructures, and something like that. So let us give our brothers and sisters who have capacities, who have capital to invest in this continent. I want to ask you one question. Those who are in the diaspora, those who are in Europe, China, can you buy the piece of land in China? Please share with me if you have a piece of land in China. If you have industries in Europe, you African, do you have industry in Europe, in France, in UK? If no, why the Europeans have industries here? And why not we Africans? We are not establishing our own industries here. So we don't have industries in our continent. We don't have industries in Asia, in Europe. So where Africans will have industries, where Africans will invest if we are not investing in our mother continent, Africa. So, kings and queens, this is the pending issues that I think we need to address as the people of Africa. And in that summit, let us take these as the points or as the starting point where we are going to discuss or to reform our institutions and our organizations and to give the power to the people of Africa, especially in the issue of investments. So let us move forward.
The other issue that impedes the numbers for our trade and investment and commerce is the issue of infrastructure, which my brother HH already spoke to. Whether it is infrastructure in energy, and that's why we need transmission lines across our countries. It is the reason why we must pool our energy resources. We have huge energy deposits in Kenya, wind, solar, geothermal. We have energy resources in other parts, in Zambia, in Tanzania, in DRC, in this country, for hydro. It is the transmission lines that will make our energy reliable so that we can do more in terms of facilitating industrialization, value addition, manufacturing of the products that we produce in our countries. Infrastructure about rail and road. Today, we are in the process of concluding the first 600 kilometers in Kenya of the LAPSET corridor that will join Kenya, Sudan, South Sudan, and Ethiopia. Again, to support trade and investment. I'm happy to report that we are also concluding the next phase of the standard gauge railway that will leave Naivasha in Kenya to Uganda, to DRC possibly, and eventually to connect the Indian Ocean to the Atlantic. It is our hope that we can together build these pieces of infrastructure so that we can remove the hurdles to our trade of goods that is occasioned by lack of infrastructure.
Yes, Mr. Ruto has touched another critical point, the issue of infrastructure, especially in the issue of energy. All of us were familiar that the continent of Africa has shortage of energy. When we talk about industrializations or industrialization, we cannot talk about industrialization if we don't have enough energy, electricity. But if you look in the continent of Africa, we have all resources. As Mr. Ruto said, we have Hinga in Democratic Republic of Congo, where we can produce enough electricity to supply to the entire continent, and the surplus can be supplied to other places. We have geothermal in Kenya, as you heard. We have gas in Tanzania, natural gas in Mozambique. There's natural gas. We have oil, crude oil everywhere. We have uranium in Niger and some other parts of the continent. If we ask ourselves, what can we do with all these resources? Why don't we, the people of Africa, decide to invest even in a single sector, whether in hydro or in nuclear, with uranium or in geothermal, to make sure that we have enough electricity? You know, sometimes when our leaders are talking about the issue of Africa Continental Free Trade Area, industrialization, Agenda 2063. Sometimes you see these are just jokes because we cannot achieve all those things if we don't have electricity. We cannot talk about industrializations if we don't have enough electricity to power our industries, to power, as you heard, electric railway, electric trains. So how can we run electric trains from Cape to Cairo without enough electricity? So automatically it is a joke. So kings and queens, and we have people in the diaspora. I'm sure we have people in the diaspora who can invest or who can contribute positively in making sure that we build this electric railway. So, but what is happening right now, all these employment, all this money are going to the Chinese. Chinese, Turkey are those who are building this project. So, but if we have been invested to our young men and women, these projects have to go to Africans. So we have created jobs, employment opportunities, and also at the same time we make money. You see? And that's why we are saying that this meeting is very, very important. The African Diaspora Summit is very important to discuss these things, that for how long we'll continue to see mega projects being taken by the Chinese, by Europeans, when African engineers will start building stadiums, when African engineers will start building roads, railway, manufacturing companies, machinery. When? Let us ask. I think those are the questions that we need to ask. We have gone to school for more than 60 years after independence. What have we achieved as the people of Africa? So those are questions I think that at the meeting we need to ask. And if possible, we need to come with solutions, with answers. So let us move on, kings and queens.
Mr. Chairman, as we waited to come to this meeting, I had a conversation with the Prime Minister of Eswatini. And he told me that it took him 13 hours to come from Eswatini to Bujumbura, a journey that would otherwise take him 2.5 hours. But because he had to go to all manner of capitals, he had to go to South Africa, then go to Ethiopia, then go to another place. He left home one day and arrived here a different day. We need to reduce and have a proper mechanism for our bilateral air service agreements to make it easier for people, business people, goods, services to move from one country to another. Let me also touch
the issue of free visas. As you heard, someone from Eswatini to Bujumbura, Burundi, he takes almost 13 hours because of these visas. So if we are serious, we want to move forward as the people of Africa, we need to remove these visas. See the Europeans. The Europeans are moving free in the continent of Europe. But when it comes to Africans, I don't know who have been told us that you need to pay for visas. You have minerals, you have everything, you have resources. Why you want to take this small amount of money? The small amount of money from visas. We Africans, what's our problems? I think we need to think what's in our mind. What is in our mind, and what do we think about development? So, and I hope if the summit will be there, the Africans, descents in the African diaspora will come to the summit without being charged for visas. This is very, very important. We need to start at that point. Let us remove these visas, remove these borders. These borders are useless. You know, I don't know our problem. And sometimes you see that someone is, and as I speak to you now, there's some countries where people are in the field building wars between countries. So we are talking about free movement of people and goods. We are talking about continental free trade area. We are talking about borderless continent. But you see someone is building war between countries. So for what? For what? So, kings and queens, I think the time has come for we, the people of Africa, to think about this abolition of visas and these borders. If we can do so, I think we can move forward. And sometimes these visas are restricting Africans from moving from one place to another. You know, if you ask the Chinese, have you reached in Dakar? They will say, yes, I have been in Dakar. Have you reached in Dar es Salaam? They will say, yes, have been in Dar es Salaam. But if you ask Nigerians, have you been in Nairobi? They will say, no. Why? Because of these visas. So it is disturbance. So to get these visas, it is something that is critical and difficult to our people. So I think the time has come to see how we can remove these visas. And of course, I've seen the year 2016, I think, Africans and the president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, came with the African passport, African Union passport. But since then, nothing is going on. So you see, we Africans, we plan very well, but when it comes to the issue of implementation, it is difficult. We are waiting the Europeans to tell us, do this, don't do this, do this, and don't do that. So for how long we'll continue to wait the Europeans to tell us what is good and right for us? So let us move on again to listen to Mr. Ruto.
On what we need to do to build the financial infrastructure to support trade across borders in our countries. We have African financial institutions, Africa Development Bank, Afri-Exim Bank, Trade Development Bank, which is headquartered here in Burundi. We have the Africa Trade Insurance Agency. We have the Africa Finance Corporation. These are African institutions that are agile, that understand our continent very well. And as governments, as COMESA, we must deliberately support these institutions so that they can support our trade, they can support our investment, they can support our value addition because they understand us and they understand our continent. Sometimes we spend too much time chasing multilateral institutions, and we should. But we must also believe in ourselves and build our own African institutions, because they develop financial tools that are sensitive to our situation, that are agile, that are responsive to the situation in our continent. Let me give an example, Mr. Chairman. Today we spend $5 billion in exchange rates for goods that we sell to other parts of the world. $5 billion. Afri-Exim Bank has developed a financial tool using known as the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System. This Pan-African Payment and Settlement System will allow us as Africans be able to trade for goods and services in our own currencies. It is no longer possible for us to change into other currencies to be able to trade in Africa.
Yes, this is another also critical sector, the issue of finance. Recently you heard about BRICS came with their own payment systems and also proposed to come with BRICS currency. So when it comes to Africa, we have already a Pan-African payment system, but only I think it is 16 countries has signed the ratification. So 16 among of 55, if it is not 54. So you can see we are not serious. We don't know what we want. So if Africans, we want to move forward, we want development, we want achievements, we need to have our own payment system. And we lose a lot of money to these exchanges. You see, we use a lot of money because to exchange into maybe from our local currencies to dollar or from one currency to another currency. But if we can use this system, the issue of Pan-African payment system, I think it will solve these challenges. And it looks like Africans, we are not ready to use this payment system. And of course, we need also to have our own currency. When we talk about businesses, trade, continental free trade area, Agenda 2063, let us do this issue, the issue of having our own currencies. You see, BRICS now is moving in that direction, and we see many countries wish to join BRICS. Why? Because it looks like BRICS, those who are in BRICS are very serious, but we who are in the continent, we're not serious, and that's why I suggest, I continue to insist, this summit, African Diaspora Summit, is very, very important. Let us meet with experts in the issue of economy or in the issue of finance to discuss how we are going to get our own currency, single currency for the continent of Africa. Let us move on.
16 countries have already signed in. I want to ask those of us in COMESA, for us to be able to trade faster, easier, let our central banks join the Pan-African payment system, so that payment and settlement system, so that our traders, our business people, we can assist them to be efficient in trade. Instead of chasing currencies, they should be chasing products and making sure that they facilitate trade across our borders. Mr. Chairman, in concluding, let me say a very significant development happened on the 25th of July this year, because the TFTA came into force that brings together COMESA, EAC, and SADC. Now we have a bigger trading bloc that brings together 800 million people with a GDP of $1.8 trillion, and it gives us an opportunity to create a bigger space for our business people to trade, to invest, and to do commerce across our borders. I must congratulate Madagascar for ratifying the ACFTA. It brings us into a space where Africa today begins the journey to trade with itself in a meaningful way. It is not possible, Mr. Chairman, to speak about COMESA without speaking about Africa Union, because we are one and the same thing. I am very happy that the UN has now passed a resolution last December that going forward, the Africa Union Peace and Security Council, the AU fund, will now be funded by assessed contributions of all UN countries, so that we can better support countries that have challenges of insecurity, of war, and conflict. It is imperative that we secure our continent, because it's the only way our business people can do trade. It's the only way investors, African or foreign, can invest in our continent. Again, Mr. Chairman, let me say I'm truly grateful. And allow me to say that because my brother Rajolina here has challenged me, that I am requesting for your support for the former Prime Minister of Kenya, Raila Odinga. In the last summit, you as heads of state gave me the mandate to work on reforming the institutions of the Africa Union. We've made progress. We've had several meetings with the AU Commission, and our intention, and we will be presenting a report to the heads of state in February on our proposals of how do we make the Africa Union Commission a fit-for-purpose organization, one that will speak for us as Africa, the 1.4 billion people, in an effective, efficient, forthright manner. Our proposal includes making the Africa Union Commission count. We have a robust, huge bureaucracy. We must give it some power for it to make decisions on our behalf.
So, kings and queens, from what you heard from Mr. Luto, I think there are so many points that we need to implement, and that's why I was standing here to share with you and to address with you these challenges and to see how we can solve these challenges. As I said, as I proposed that as the people of Africa, we need to convene our own meeting, our own summit, this time to solve all these challenges, the issue of trade, the issue of security and peace, the issue of visas, the issue of financial institutions, the issue of peace conflicts. We need this meeting, this urgent meeting, where we will discuss what we can do as the people of Africa. Not only discussing, we need to come up with solutions. So, kings and queens, I know you have solutions. Please share with us from what you heard. What can we do as the people of Africa to achieve all this? Our aim is simple, or is one, to achieve or to create development in the continent of Africa. We want the people of Africa to enjoy the fruits of their mother continent, Africa. So, kings and queens, have spoken for too long. Let me end it here. I'm waiting to hear from you. What is your perspectives? What is your suggestions? Please make sure that you share with us through the comment section. What do you think? What is your thought? And what can we do as the people of Africa? With those few words, let me say thank you. See you next time. Have a nice time.